Hello everybody and welcome back for another round today of the ISR AIC Season 2 Championship. We're out in Curitiba in Brazil, and alongside me today is not Craig Evans, it is Zack Swader. Welcome along, Zack. I understand you've done your homework about Curitiba, and I'm sure you're looking forward to it as your first commentary this season.
Indeed, Toby. It's great to be back here in the booth with you today for the AIC Championship. We're here at the beautiful Curitiba circuit in Brazil, which if some of you may have heard of this track before, you may, if you followed the World Touring Car Championship a few years ago, this track was actually on the calendar. And it also, if you guys have been following the Twitter page for the AIC Championship on the ISR stuff, you'll recognize that this will be the longest straightaway this season. So it's going to be interesting, Toby, to see how these DTMs fare around the top speed section of this track. But it's a simple track, but also very high speed. It's sort of another Monza type of situation we'll have. So it's going to be interesting to see how these cars handle this long straightaway this season, Toby.
Of course, we have 3 different manufacturers as well of DTM. We have BMW, Audi and Mercedes, so it'll be interesting to see which engine manufacturer will be able to reach the highest speed and who that will affect. We did some guesswork last time out of Brands Hatch, and we think it may be the Audis that will have the best chance on a straight. We also think Mercedes has the best acceleration, which will help them as well, but we also believe BMW has the best brakes, so that will help them into that heavy turn 1 braking reserve, but all remains to be found out. Last time out, it was Craig Evans who was second, but it was the very important and impressive rookie, Jonathan Carrera, that took pole position. So let's go and see what happened this time. So as we take a look at the qualifying results, for only the second time in his AIC career, Joshua Wood takes the pole position by just 0.003 of a second ahead of Rinus Melngalis for Team ISR. Team ISR improving forever, always improving, so really good to see that. And a very impressive qualifying debut once again for Jonathan Carrera. Second time running, he gets a podium position. He will start on the grid from 3rd ahead of Callum Spencer. A good day in qualifying for Lucky Strike JSR, who is only just 2300th off the pace of Wood. And next comes Kevin Jacobs, another impressive rookie, down in 5th. Followed by Christopher Pettersson, who will be looking to have improved fortunes for NORL and get their championship really underway. He's ahead of our reigning champion, Nut Martinson, who had a torrid time last time out in Brands Hatch. We'll have to see what he can do here today. And Chester Jackson, the top 8, all separated by just 0.5 of a second. And Chester Jackson rounds off that top 8.
Josh Martin starts behind him in 9th, and rounding up our top 10 is Toby Byrne for ISR. Last week's winner, Craig Evans, starts off 11th, so he's got some ground to make up as he works his way through this Brazilian circuit. Behind him is Ross McFarlane, Nickel Foggy 13th, Evan Emrate in 14th, and 15th Douglas Anderson, and 16th Valerian Campagnari, who once again struggling for the NORL seat, guys. This is going to be interesting. Hopefully they can be able to make something going for that for the NRL camp.
Race winner Gareth Lennon will start in 17th position, having a torrid start to the season. Ahead of again another race winner Danny Diaz, who was challenging for the championship. He'll hope to improve. Looking at his impressive rookie performance, for his teammate Zack Swader will start in 19th, a bit disappointed with that, and a very struggling start considering they were effectively equal champions this time out for GTFG, with Stephen Paul in 20th and Charles McVie in 21st. But lining up on the very last position and starting from last in the race is Colin McAllister, who is a whopping 3.7 off the pace, so maybe some qualifying gremlins for Colin, Zack, but GTFG, considering they only lost on best result rather than points, they're having a really bad start to the season.
Yeah, they are. There's actually quite a few big names down at the bottom of the list, and especially for last week's winner, Craig Evans. You know, it's about midway, but it's still, I don't think it's where he would be wanting to go here with this one, Toby. I think he would rather be up there to try to get 2 wins in a row and, kind of, push his points deal up as far as he can. But very, very interesting stuff this season as far as qualifying, especially this week. So we'll have to see what we can do. But yeah, good job from Joshua Wood. Get another pole for this one. He's Mr. Consistency for a reason, Toby. He'll be the one to watch out for, as I think he'll be going for another driver of the season this time.
Exactly. You've also got to look out for Jonathan Carrera, who has had a consistent top 3 to both qualifying sessions. Last time out, he bottled the win, it has to be said, off the line, but we'll see if he can take the win from Joshua Wood today, but he'll have to pass Melngalis to do that. But let's go find out what happens as we go and take a look at the race. So here we are, Zach. We line up for the first time ever in Brazil in the AIC. We can see it's Joshua Wood ahead of Rainis Melngelis. Not a lot between them. Lights out and away we go. It looked like a pretty poor start for Joshua Robert Wood. He will come under a bit of threat from Rainis Melngelis, I'm sure. But look at the start Jonathan Carrero's got. He's straight past the ISR car of Rainis Melngelis as they come into turn 1. And it looks like he's going to be challenging for the lead into turn 1. But it has to be said, Joshua Robert Wood will have the racing line, but it turns to the inside now, which favours Jonathan Carrero. He has the inside, gets up on the curb, unable to go anywhere with it, and now Rainis Melngelis will come under threat from Callum Spencer around the outside as we can see cars absolutely everywhere down the straight. Bits of bodywork getting scraped off. Jonathan Carrero looks to the inside to try and take the lead of the race as we look through the field, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do so. You can see EQU car of Danny Diaz there trying to fight his way up. We saw contact there a little bit between Northern Lights Racing, I believe that was, and someone else. But as things start to get underway, we can see a little bit more of Pro Race UK going side by side with Knoll. And that looks like a pretty terrible start for Christopher Pettersson. We ride on board with Kevin Jacobs, who's also had a pretty terrible start. So a few guys got psyched out, and it looked like the ISR cars of Burnham, Wright and Melngelis are now battling each other coming into the final corner with Nut Martinson behind that.
Yeah, indeed. That was a fantastic start from the rookie, Jonathan Carrero. And, you know, and I bet you he's going to be wanting some revenge after he could have tried to get the win last week out in Brands Hatch, but just couldn't do anything for Craig Evans as we go through the field. And a bunch of cars that burst at the back. It looks like that's Zack Swader all the way in the back. So he must have had a very terrible start. It looks like right there, Colin McAllister is overtaking him. So a bunch of chaos right now going on for this start, Toby. But obviously here, as we see a bunch more carbon fiber shards and big cars, just look at the cars going over the curves. They are leaving nothing behind as we're going side by side here. And even that's one of the NRL cars right there in the scrap heap. So looks like these guys are leaving nothing on the table for the second round of this DTM season, Toby.
Yep, so we're off to a fiery start. We're watching Evan Imre, and now we're watching, I believe that's Craig Evans having a tussle with a GTFG car of Charles McBee. They will try to sort that out amongst themselves, and it looks like GTFG's got the better of that time. We can see Pro Race UK, Ross McFarlane against, I believe, this is Christopher Pettersson, two very experienced guys, and it looks like McFarlane may just have to run as the racing line favours the outside line, but Pettersson will try to keep it down the inside, and now Evan Imre will follow McFarlane through. Great opportunistic stuff to see there from Evan Imre. He's trying to make up for his poor qualifying, and he's had a terrific race start, one of the best race starts, I think, of the whole group. And we can see that was an EQU car going wide, and we also had Gareth Lennon going off, who now falls to last position as a result of going wide there. As we look at the action back down on the pit straight, and we can see cars going everywhere. That was Zack Swader, going, that was a bit hard to say, but Zack Swader going off at the final corner and drops all the way to last position just behind Lennon.
Indeed, that was a very interesting sight for Swader right there. Must have a tire going issue or something, or he got shoved up by somebody. As we look, I believe, yep, that's Danny Diaz going right side by side. And, you know, he's one of the guys that you thought, you know, we all thought last year was going to actually get the championship win, but obviously it doesn't seem to be. As we take a look now, looking like cars going left and right all over the place right now. So a bit of an interesting start, like we've said here, but obviously it should be interesting here to see what going to make contact. I believe that, yeah, that's Douglas Anderson going on the outside. I believe that's Evan Imre. So it seems to be it's just DTM is German touring cars, but right now it's almost like BTCC, Toby. I'm getting confused right now to see who's who. They're just jockeying for position right now. So yeah, very interesting to see more contact going through there. That's Charles McBee in front of, I believe that's either Gareth Lennon or Colin Collins. I think that's
that Northern Light Racing car is going very wide, Zach. There it is, and that's our winner from last time out, Zach. I'll let you continue, but very wide stuff for Evans.
Yeah, Craig Evans, not the star. We said in the qualifying, he qualified 11th, mid sort of the pack, so it's kind of not surprising to me, really, that he was going to get caught up in all the crazy first lap action here. So it's not surprising to see him all the way in the back. So very, very disappointing stuff for our last week's winner, Craig Evans, Toby.
Yep, he's had a torrid first time out. We're looking at Toby Vernon, who's actually one of the best starters as well. We can see Colin McAllister back there, dueling away with, I believe that was a ART car, formerly YMR. ART in the bright orange livery for this season. We can see Charles McBee trying to put a bit of pressure on who's there. That's Evan Imre. You can tell by the Scottish flag on top of that yellow and blue beautiful livery of the Force Fizzy team. So he's going to be trying to put a bit of pressure on Evan Imre and try and get a bit of better fortunes going for the GTFG guys, because they've struggled to get to grips with the car this season and get away. And you have to wonder if losing Joshua Wood may have been part of that process. Zack, GTFG becoming a bit unstabilised because they lost him pretty late on and had to try find anyone really for the seat, and luckily they found the Iron Brew departing driver of McBee there. So we're looking at some moves coming into turn one. I believe this is Chester Jackson making a move on Kevin Jacobs. Easy stuff. He got a very good run. We told you that Audi is probably the best in a straight line, and he's got the job done. Saying that though, the Force Fizzy of Nut Martinson has actually just got ahead of Vern in the process.
Indeed, that was an incredible speed from the EQU machine of Chester Jackson. That at least had to have been going at least, I say about 20 to 25 miles an hour quicker than the car he passed. So indeed, these Audis must have the higher horsepower advantage. As we see Colin Spencer behind, I believe that's Jonathan Carrero, the other Namco sponsor machine of the Autobox 765. Hopefully he can be able to do something, as his teammate Zack Swader was having trouble early on in the race, being either forced off or having an issue with the car here. So he's looking to hopefully get some points here for the 765 group here. But Spencer looking for something. He's kind of between here. This could be a good opportunity for both Joshua Wood and Colin Spencer, who, you talked about the GTFG. This is the guy that actually picked up Joshua Wood, Toby. This is actually looking like it was a very, very smart move there for this team.
Yeah, they were kind of a bit short-picked. And the top, oh, look at that, Zack. Evan Imre is missing the better half of the front of his car. What's got on to Evan Imre? He's got massive damage, and surely he's going to have to pit for that at the end of this lap. Something's happened to Evan Imre as we look. Has anyone got damage behind him, Zack? And it looks like that ART car, the bright orange car, is missing a door. So I wonder if them two have come together at some point on the last lap. I'm not sure. We can see Pro Race going side by side with Noel once again. We can see GTFG going side by side.
Whoa,
and McBee trying to... Yep, Charles McBee trying to establish authority already over the likes of Stephen Paul, and there was a bit more contact between Kevin Jacob and Evan Imre. So something's going on. These guys are not happy with each other whatsoever, and Evan Imre is looking in serious damage there.
Yeah, that was a very something here. In the words of Craig Evans from last season, they're just shedding some weight, I guess you could say here, but they're doing it in the wrong sort of ways, as you can really damage your car. I believe that's Colin McAllister is going to go down the inside, and I believe that is one of the ART or the AMR cars going right behind him, trying to get the slipstream. And so it looks to me like there seems to be a whole more team, I guess. Oh, looks like I can't tell who that was. I believe that's one of the AMR cars going off into the dirt. That might have been Douglas Anderson. So more unfortunate luck here. Let's take a look at this replay. We're on board with Evan Imre, and that is a hard contact here for Evan Imre. That could have been disastrous. He's lucky to still be even in this race, as we can tell. Yep, this is Kevin Jacobs in the ART machine. Just loses it going into the dirt, kind of clips the wall, and as he comes back, bam! Just hard contact, as we can see. Whole bunch more body work coming off the car. He just hits the wall, and as he's coming back, he just collects. Evan Imre just had nowhere to go, Toby.
You can watch that in super slow motion. Oh, just look at the speed that bumper got once it was ripped off the front of that Force Fizzy Mercedes. And you have to argue that that's a bit of an unsafe release. Not unsafe release, but unsafe track rejoin for Kevin Jacobs. He could have gone straight, but he wanted to get on the racing line as soon as he can. And there it is, Zack. It is under investigation. And how do you see that? Because for me, I think that's a bit of a unsafe track rejoin, because he could have gone straight, but he just tried to get on the racing line as soon as he did and just did not see Evan Imre in his way.
Yeah, straight up. That's just poor decision making right there for him. And it's just, you have to wonder if he could have been more patient. But like you said, he just wanted to rejoin the track and not lose any positions more than what he already did going off. But, I guess just under the pressure, just, wanted to get back going as quickly as possible here, as we see Charles McBee behind. I believe that's Colin McAllister or Gareth Lennon here. We can take a look at the number here. We'll get a good angle shot. But, yeah, it's definitely, just... I don't know what he was thinking, trying to go back on the track. You have to let, be more patient going on the track if you go off.
Oh, here he goes, Colin McAllister on the inside of Valeria. Campagnari will try, hold it around the outside, and that's going to leave Colin nowhere to go, and he has to sit back down. Great defensive driving from Valeria, and he actually loses a bit of time, and now will come under a pressure from last week's race winner. Craig Evans will try to look up the inside in the final corner, almost a flat-out corner. From this point, you're 100% on the throttle, and he's going to try to tuck into the slipstream of his counterpart. We can see a bit back there, that was Charles McBee trying to make a move on Zack Swader, and they'll have to drag race, and it looks like he pulled out the slipstream too early and loses the time, and Stephen Paul coming under a bit of threat there from a Northern Lights racing car as well. We look on with the guy who's sticking with these top three, Reinhard Melngalis, shortly there, and as we were talking then about that incident, it is under investigation, and Kevin Jacobs, and the thing I think that hurt Evans so much, and I think the way it's, we've been commentating this whole race, he gets off of Petterson trying to make a move on Evans, not happening this time around. But he got such a good start. How many moves did we commentate over that? And after that collision, he was past the pit lane. So he had to do a whole lap without any fourth. And there he is. He's obviously been in the pits and got it repaired. And unfortunately, that amazing start, probably the best start out of anyone in terms of overtakes, has got him nothing. And he's driving all by his lonesome at the back of the grid.
Yeah, terrible there for Evan Imre. That just could have been one of the best starts he's had this season, as he, like you said, Toby, kind of struggled last week out, and there was that, I believe that was
Josh Martin.
Yeah, Josh Martin going quite wide into the dirt here, so it seems like these guys are just having, I guess these cars here, Toby, I think under the slipstream, I mean, like you said, like we said like earlier in the pre-race here, this is the longest straight that we'll see this season, and so they're trying to get the slipstream, but they're getting the slipstream, I think, too early with these cars here, as we see Zack Swader go on the inside, hoping to take advantage of that. As we go side by side here, that's Douglas Anderson taking the move as well. So Dougie trying to make some moves himself, as he kind of went off earlier in the race as well. But I think they're just getting the slipstream at the wrong situations, Toby, and it's just forcing these cars to take the speeds a bit too fast to what they need to go for some of these corners.
Yep, Stephen Paul just made the move on Nickel Foggy, we just watched there, and there's no shortages of moves going on here, but yeah, it's slipstream, once you're in that slipstream and try to turn, there's no pushing force against you, so the car has a lot more speed and therefore struggles to make the turn at the same speed that it usually would, so excuse me, as we watch. So the top four right now is Mercedes, BMW. So these guys having a very good time. Audi seem to be struggling to get a car in the top five, as it's another Mercedes behind them, and I believe then it's an Audi of Chester Jackson. Impressive start for Chester Jackson. We've talked about how impressive Jonathan Carrera has been as a rookie, but Chester holding his own as well, and it is impressive how mature these guys look, considering Kevin Jacobs arguably just made the biggest rookie mistake that we've seen in the AIC so far.
Indeed, it's probably worse than I think the situation goes for him, Kevin Jacob. You know, like we said earlier, you're under pressure, wanting to get back on the track as quickly as possible, but you got to be more patient and be more self-aware when you go off the track and you make a mistake here. You can't just go back onto the track thinking, oh, well, this is going to be like a video game. They'll just go straight through us, but it's not the case in actual racing. You got to be more patient going onto the track. But yeah, you talk about all the rookies that we've had. We've had Jonathan Carrero starting out on pole last week. We had Chester Jackson even having a good race last weekend. So last weekend, Toby, was a fantastic week for the rookie squad here, and which ironically enough, both of those two are part of the sister team. So honestly, something going on between the 765 group and the EQU deal, as you know, Swader coming over from EQU to form his own team with Jonathan Carrero. So obviously Swader is seeing a lot of good talent for both of these teams. So as we see, Reinhard Melngalis right here is looking to stick with these three. So right now it's Colin Spencer, then Jonathan Carrero right there, as that's in front of him, and then Joshua Wood up ahead in the lead. So I think this is you have to wonder though, Toby, Reinhard Melngalis, he struggled a little bit last season, and then, out of nowhere now in these cars, he's looking to hopefully make up some ground, as he only really had one good race last season, Toby.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because round one Poznan last season he took second place, and after that he had nothing. He didn't score again until Okayama, which was the final round of the season, and he actually won that race. So it seemed pretty weird that for some reason he lost all his confidence, and it took him all season to build it back, and it's given him a good foundation to start this season on. Byrne is in the points as well, which will be his first points of the season if he finishes in that position, of course. So it's looking good for ISR. They want improved fortunes over last season. They were happy to get a win, but I think they want to be challenging JSR and Northern Lights Racing and stuff at the front. As this is their home territory, so they're being shown up a little bit at the moment, so they're not too impressed about that. But I think they are. We've got quite a lot of Audis in a row here. As we can see, the NORL Audi, followed by the Iron Brew Audi, followed by an NLR Audi, followed by another NORL Audi. So a lot of Audis in a row, so it seems these Audis are starting to match each other, but it looks like it's a better day, arguably. It's interesting because we've seen how effective Chester Jackson's Audi-powered engine was passing, who was it? Did he pass? I can't remember, but he passed someone with relative ease. It may have been a Force Fizzy or something like that. But despite how much speed they've got, they're struggling to get the whole package there.
Indeed, it's kind of it's interesting as you say that, because you would think, you know, like we said earlier, we have Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. You know, you would think, you know, oh, well, these DTMs, you know, they're under, I believe that Zack Swader lost a door there. I don't know if that or the AMR car looked like a number 7 on top of that car. We'll have to see if another camera angle, someone lost a door, probably from an earlier incident. But it's very weird how some of these cars, as we see them, you know, two Mercedes up front and the BMW. So yeah, Audi seem to be struggling a little bit trying to get things going here. But at the same time, you have to wonder, you know, is that really going to affect them in the long run for different tracks? Because, you know, these cars are not the same whatsoever. Each going to have their different own package kind of engine deal because, you know, yeah, they have their, you know, own specific horsepower limits that DTM allow. But, you know this as we take a look at another 15-second time penalty. So there it is, you know, rookie mistake, Toby, and it's going to cost you.
And I think that's a very, very harsh but fair penalty to Kevin Jacobs, considering he's effectively ruined Evan Nimra's race, and it's very lucky that Evan Nimra is actually still going after a shunt of that caliber. But I think they want to enforce that, rookie or not, they're not going to tolerate that. And Kevin Jacobs has been slapped down with a 15-second time penalty, and he'll need to do something because the grid is very compact at the moment, and that will drop him a whole heap of positions. He's actually in the lower end of the points right now, so he's going to have to do something to try extend that gap. So let's have a look. What else have we got going on the track? We've got Callum Spencer trying to close in Jonathan Carrera under slipstream, but it looks like he just doesn't get the exit and wasn't able to really challenge Carrera into turn 1. We can see as the cars come through, and it's a bit of a train situation at the moment now. It's got to the business end of the race where you just need to settle down, get the laps in, and everyone's got up to speed, everyone's got in a rhythm, and this is arguably the hardest stage in a race, Zack. I think we can say from experience to make overtakes once everyone's got going, everyone's comfortable, and it's just a case of waiting for that car in front of you to make that slight mistake, go a slight bit wide, take the corner a bit too tight and get a bad exit, and anything of that, and it just becomes about patience. But Evan Imre looks like he's closing up to a car in front of him, slightly ahead. We're looking at Christopher Pettersson. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure where he is. Let's have a look. So that's Gareth Leonard, who's at the lower end of the grid. So Christopher Pettersson right now is about in 12th or 13th. And he did he not start 5th, Zack? So very, very hard race going on for Christopher. His teammate Valeria has actually gained positions and he's actually fighting for the points right now. So not only has Christopher lost a whole heap of positions, but he's lost one to his teammate as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely some team structure that a lot of these guys are looking for, and especially for Christopher Pettersson. You know, last season, you know, NRL in a story, actually, last season, they struggled last season as well. As far as, like, guys like, as well with Craig Evans and then a few other guys that struggled last season that have, you know, built, and you take a look last week, of course, Craig getting the win. But NRL as a whole, you have Christopher Pettersson and Valeria Campagnari. You know, they've been wanting so much more than what they've had last season, and you know, it's a difficult situation. They said they were going to keep both drivers in, but you know, you have to think though, Toby, do you think it's a bit early to kind of start worrying if you're NRL? Do you think they could probably make up plenty of time? Definitely, we're only the second race of the season, but are they kind of like starting to fall into that same slump they did last season in the Scirocco's?
Well, I think we've seen that from last season that they're very hard. It's very tough for them to adapt to new regulations. And of course with AIC, the regulations for what cars we drive changes every season. So it's always going to be a tough start to them until they learn to adapt. One team they could take advice from, especially, is Autoback 765, at least on one half of the garage, challenging for wins in their first ever season in these new cars. Or JSR, who won the championship as SLR last season, who are now in position to take a 1-3 unless this man Carrera can do anything about it. So it's all about them adapting, and they're struggling to do it at the moment, which is interesting. It seems like there's a few guys struggling to adapt. GTFG is another one, Zack. As we said in qualifying, they actually drew on points with SLR, but the only reason that they lost was because SLR had scored a win and they had not. So they won on a technicality. But they've had such a poor start, GTFG, even more so than NORL. I think GTFG is the ones I'm worried about. The Gran Turismo sponsored car, Gran Turismo Sport, out later this month, I believe, or something along those lines. So, I mean, maybe the focus is on that, I'm not sure, but really struggling to get adapted are the effective joint title winners from last season, Zack.
Indeed, and I can tell you one thing, though. It looks to me, I can't tell, it's hard to tell, but I think Jonathan Carrera was starting to close in on Joshua Wood. So these two right here, you've got Mr. Consistency that's probably going to be getting his first ever AIC win here in the next few laps, unless he can hold off the hard-charging, who might be our rookie of the season, Toby. So this is a very interesting, playoff for first and second. You've got Joshua Wood, who was our driver of the year last season in the Scirocco's, looking for his first career win in the AIC. And then you've got the candidate for the rookie of the year. And don't forget, Josh was in the situation that Jonathan was in last year. Never actually took, his actual league racing deal. Like we've said before, the only thing that racing he's known for is driving around Los Santos in GTA 5. And for him to come in to the AIC and score as many podiums and top 5 finishes as he did in the Scirocco's last season, Toby, I think it's a well-deserved win if he can hold off Jonathan Carrera for these next few laps, Toby.
Yeah, considering his consistency, it's been a long time coming for sure. But of course, we're looking at Mr. Consistency V1 versus Mr. Consistency V2, because if this stays the way it is, this will be Jonathan's second place in the second race. Now that is a tongue twister to say, but yeah, that would be Mr. Consistency V1 versus V2 effectively. It looks like Callum Spencer's closing these guys in just a little bit. That man, Nut Martinson, is trying to stay with them as well. He's climbed from 7th in qualifying to 5th in the race right now. A lot of guys without doors, so it's been a bit of bumping and shunting. Nonetheless, we can see who took the biggest shunt is obviously Evan Imre, the poor guy, and my heart goes out to him. You can see him back there, Zack. He looks like he's made a position on, I think, Nickel Foggy. So he's refusing to give up, despite Kevin Jacobs ruining his race and really being punted by a guy that just was not looking. And while we're talking about rookies, it's interesting because Kevin Jacobs came 5th, I think, in Brands Hatch. So it's not as if he's bad. It's just he's just made one of them silly errors that you make when you're new to this level of racing, and especially in these cars, they're on the limit 100% of the time. We can hear how loud the engines are roaring. They're on the throttle about a good 95% of the lap here, and it's all on the limit stuff. So I think it's just a bit of pressure of fighting the big boys and trying to become rookie of the season and trying to impress ART to secure his long-term future has got the better of him here today, Zack, and it's ended him up with a 15-second penalty, which may, I'm not saying it will, but it may be the deciding factor on whether ART retain him for next year.
Actually, I would actually have to agree with that because, you keep making these rookie mistakes and, it's going to be tough because when a team sees a rookie at this level, they're going to expect, they're going to, if you look at the situation, well, actually, there's a good actually, the rookie being Jonathan Carrera up showing, his teammate Zack Swader, as well as Chester Jackson up showing his teammate Danny Diaz. They're going to expect you to actually do what those two are doing. So it's like, okay, we need you to start beating your number one. We want you to see what we know you have potential. You got to show it, but it's a very difficult situation for rookies, but you still, you can't be making mistakes like that, as we saw, and it ended up ruining Evan Imre's, race toward the end. But yeah, it's a very, very finicky, situation. We'll have to see how it plays out for the rest of the season for him. But yeah, so we're riding on board with Gareth Lennon in the Iron Brew Racing, very fantastic looking livery here. A lot of decent, great liveries this season. Now we had, EQU and NRL tying for the best season for the Scirocco's. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this Iron Brew livery up there in the voting as well, Toby. Some fantastic liveries this season.
Yeah, nice colourful grid this time out. I mean, I might be a little bit biased, but my current favourite is the ISR. The little multicoloured roof and stuff it has with the two-tone look. It's a great look. Another one is GTFG, and taking the blue and red of the Gran Turismo logo and applying it to their car, as you can see in the background there. It was a great night, great livery. We just rode on board with Gareth Lennon, and you guys saw a bit of the many challenges they're facing over the course of a lap, and he's trying to stay with another car as well. It can be a little bit distracting, but of course on the ART situation it's interesting because Andrew Pavia, who lost his seat to Kevin Jacobs, and unfortunately for him, Zack is the only AIC S1 driver not to be in S2. He scored a podium, which was actually the best result they had all season at Snetterton, and so he actually got a better result than his number one teammate Anderson did all season, and that was still not enough to retain his seat. So either ART have very high expectations, or they had a bit of a falling out with Pavia, and it was maybe something a bit more political than just result based. But we're into the final 2 laps here. We're watching Nickel Foggy, who is trying to chase back down Evan Imre, who has passed him. So I'm not sure. I don't think he is, but Evan Imre is. I thought he might be a lap down. I don't think he is on this stage. But for Evan Imre to take, what would that be, like a 40-second pit stop to get the whole front reattached and tyres changed, and maybe that's what's helping him, the fresh rubber is helping him push on and catch these guys. But he's closed like a 30-second gap to Nickel Foggy and passed him, Zack. So despite his absolute terrible, start to the race, which was none of his fault, he's done a really mega job to avoid finishing last.
Yeah, that is a absolute fantastic recovery here. And actually, Toby, touching back on the ART thing as well, Andrew Pavia didn't actually make any mistakes, as far as that goes for sure. So you have to think, you expect the expectations, but then do you want the seasoned veterans as well? As we go on the final lap here at Curitiba, Joshua Wood looking to probably get his first career win. As we take a look at Toby, I think another person will be making his hard charge to defend his championship is Nut Martinson. He kind of struggled last week, not where you wanted to be for your defending championship, but I think a good solid, believe 5th he's in right now would be a good way to go ahead and get that early recovery, Toby. But we're looking at right now the man who I think, like we said, Mr. Consistency, the long time coming for this first career win. If he can hold off Jonathan Carrero for just a few more corners here, will be getting his first career win. And like we said, it was a long time coming. We saw how strong he was in the Scirocco's. We've seen what he can do, and I believe it's about time he deserves it. So Joshua Robert Wood, I think it's time to take a bow as we go onto the straight for the final time. Joshua Wood will take his first career AIC victory. What a absolute fantastic drive from Toby.
Great stuff. It was a long time coming. A lot of podiums. He's been up on the podium steps a long time, but never has he before been on the top step. So this will mean a lot to Joshua Robert Wood, I am sure, and I'm sure it will mean a lot to the man in 3rd place, Callum Spencer, because that means he knows he has another great teammate like he did last season to go ahead and try win the Constructors. Here are your race results. I'll take you through the first page, and then my man Zack will take you through the second. So Joshua Wood wins from the impressive rookie Carrera ahead of Callum Spencer. Those guys, obviously, like I said, mounting an attack for the championship. Rhinus Melngalis drops from 2nd to 4th, but nevertheless has a good race, just didn't really have it to take it to the top 3 today. Nut Martinson comes from 7th to finish 5th, good result for him. Chester Jackson comes from 8th to finish 6th, so another one for him. Ross McFarlane maintains where he started and finishes 7th, as does Toby Byrne. Danny Diaz, wow, mega climb for Danny Diaz. He's climbed all the way, Zack, I think from 18th to 9th. Impressive stuff. Valerio Campagnari again climbed from 17th to finish 10th. Danny Diaz and Campagnari having a great stuff. McAllister coming from last to finish 11th. Really good stuff from him. Craig Evans will also finish where he started, and Zack will take us through the rest of the results when they pop up on your screen. Here you go, Zack.
Christopher Pedersen, 13th position, and Gareth Lennon, 14th. It was a good drive for both of them. Christopher looking for some pace, but you'll have to see how that goes out. Josh Martin, 15th. Zack Swader, who had some early struggles early on, finished 16th. Douglas Anderson behind him in 17th. And the big story, Kevin Jacobs, 15-second penalty. He still manages to hold on to 18th. So That's actual good recovery, even though he made the mistake. Stephen Paul 19th, Nickel Foggy in 20th, Charles McBee in 21st, and the guy that got affected by Kevin Jacobs' unfortunate error, unfortunately for Evan Imre, finishes last. But wow, I believe that's
Oops,
that's Chris Puffer Patterson. Now you might want to mind your stuff here as we take a look at the points. Toby, why don't you go ahead and take us through that?
So Jonathan Carrera now leads the championship in his second ever AIC race by a single point, Zack. Mega stuff. And Mr. Consistency, 1 point behind him with 36 points with Joshua Wood. Craig Evans drops 2 positions, no points for him today. Chester Jackson is actually the only person on the grid who will stay where he is after today. Callum Spencer gets his season off to a start up in 5th. Nickel Foggy is actually tied on points. It says 0 for Callum Spencer there, that's just a technical glitch. He actually has 15, the same as Foggy, who is 2 points ahead of Melgalis. Good start for him. And our champion, should I say, in 8th. Ahead of Kevin Jacobs with that time penalty today, ahead of Ross McFarlane and the rest on that screen. And the team's championship, Zack, Lucky Strike JSR off to a great start. Autobacks stay where they are. ISR gets started, as do Force Fizzy and Pro Race UK. But the only team left to not score a point, Zack, is the Iron Brew Racing. That livery you love oh so much.
Indeed, they got to get something going here, but that was a fantastic drive from, like you said, Colin McAllister starting last, finishes just outside of the points in 11, so maybe just a few extra pushes, he could have been on the points to get that extra point, but wow, what a fantastic race here in Curitiba. Hopefully we can be able to come here again in a future AIC season, but fantastic stuff. I think if we had to do driver of the day, I think it would actually have to go to Colin McAllister because he made such some fantastic moves to start all the way from last, Toby. But what do you think about that?
I'm not sure if it's the sympathy vote or what's making me tell this, but I'm going to go with Evan Imre. After such a great start, all the odds were against him and he came back. He did actually finish last in the end, so I don't know what happened on that. Unfortunately, there was no replay as to what happened to him, but to get in the position to battle and not just be driving around by himself, he really did well. And great job to the Force Fizzy boys in the pits, of course, to get him back out there. That has been everything from Brazil, Zack, and what a race, like you said, and hopefully we will come back in a season or two, but it's made a great first impression on us. And really, it's been an up and down race, hasn't it? It's been one to quite trickily take it in. It's been an interesting one, but next time out we'll see you then, Zack, and we'll have to see who comes out on top next time, but Jonathan Carrera leads the way.
Indeed, that's going to be something, but yep, it's going to be interesting to see, but like we said before, I think the battle is going to be between Joshua Wood and Jonathan Carrera, our top 2. Mr. Consistency V1 and V2. Who knows how that's going to do. But, yep, I believe it was a fantastic race, Toby, today. Congratulations to Joshua Wood.
Congrats to Joshua on his first win. Congrats to Jonathan on another podium. And congrats to Spencer for getting his first podium of the season. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And until round 3, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.